of feeling. When we pull up to the pit stop sometimes, we have people all around the car. You don't want to hurt anyone. But you also want to gain every little bit of lap time possible. So you push it as much as you can. But we still make mistakes. We misjudge it sometimes. Sometimes you kind of lock up.
Yeah.
You hit the guy, but he's ready to kind of absorb a bit of the impact. And then he jacks the car up, they change the tires, put it back down, and you go. Like the first time you do it, you enter very slowly. And you kind of slowly start to learn how much you can push it and exactly how long and wide the car is. But that's something that takes time.
We also have like a board that we kind of line our tires up with. So we have like a good reference, and we can't see much out of the car, but we can see a little bit, sort of the top of the tires and a little bit above that. Otherwise, you probably see a lot more people getting hurt.
So our next question is from @BeforeWeKiss. How do drivers know that it's time for a pit stop?
Our engineer just tells us. Ultimately, we can decide if we don't want to or not. Usually there's a pretty good reason why they would call us into the pit lane.
You kind of pit for 2 reasons. Actually, you can have 3 reasons. 1, you got damage. 2, the tires are wearing out. The tires made of rubber. Over time, that wears down. The less rubber you have, the less grip you have. So at a certain point, it's better to come into the pits, put new tires on.
They're always talking to us about how our tires are going, whether we think we can keep going, and if it gets really bad, whether we can keep the car on the track.
Sometimes you might just pit because the guy behind you is pit. Undercut is when someone pits before you, puts on fresh tires, and then by the time that you pit, you actually come out behind them. Overcuts, which is actually the opposite of that. You put on fresh tires, but really the fresh tires aren't that much better, or maybe they're difficult to warm up. Then it's actually better to go for a bit longer, pit later, and maybe you overtake someone that way. That's when you get into the more technical stuff with strategy, which is a big part of racing.
So there's a lot of communication around that side of things. So you kind of want to be able to communicate with your team without giving away too much information, because all the other teams can listen to each other's radio. That's why you never hear anyone say what lap they're going to pit, because then you tell the whole pit lane what your strategy is. From Amber Lounge Limited, what's your favorite F1 car shape? Well, we grew up watching like 2010s or late 2000s, so the old cars like Lando's Holding look really cool. Much more simple than what we have now.
The McLaren MP4 2B 1985 Frost car. I think I've driven this one. I think I drove it in Sonoma.
Oh.
Just everything is cool about it.
Yeah.
Everything. The colors, the look. Sounds incredible as well. For me, sound is a big part of everything.
Yeah.
Cars nowadays sound terrible. These sound way better. Very little technology. Everything here is to do with technology. How they build it, how they design it, make it. It just drives differently, very different. Like no power steering. Now we have power steering. So from step 1 to the end, basically everything is changed or a lot more advanced nowadays.
From @Maybelline Grace,